Do 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 do. Oh, I think we're live. Hey y'all, it's JJ Conway. I'm so excited to be here with you today. I am very much looking forward to our content today. This is going to be an interesting, shall we say, discussion of the book Think and Grow Rich. Now, I'm going to tell you a little bit first about how I came in contact with this book, and then I'm going to talk to you about some very unsavory information that I've learned since then about Napoleon Hill. But ultimately, I think the book has enough merit that I think it warrants looking at just a little deeper. Okay, so first of all, the way I came in contact with this book is when I went to my very first real estate class. It was called 21 Days to Real Estate Riches, taught by someone you've seen me mention before. I've even spoken on his stage once, like that made me feel good. Like my mentor has brought me on his stage, right? By Sherman Ragland. And he included a couple of things that I still firmly believe in to this day. One is he included a recording of The Strangest Secret, and encouraged us to listen to that every night as we fell asleep. The other thing he included was a copy of, here we go, Think and Grow Rich. Think and Grow Rich. You can see how old this version is here. This is not the one that he originally gave me because that fell apart. Actually, I think it may have been one of those we had to order, but that one fell apart. So this was the replacement, but you can still see how old it is. I've had it with me for all these years because it's really been impactful for me. But before we dig into the book itself, I just kind of want to talk to you a little bit about the guy Napoleon Hill. So the interesting thing about Napoleon Hill, okay, is that Napoleon Hill was commissioned. Napoleon Hill was commissioned to write this book. Okay, so basically, let me see if he actually says it in his preface. I should know this because I should have. That's right, it was Carnegie. All right, all my Pittsburgh 412 people are like, JJ, how did you forget that? I knew it was somebody big, but I also knew it was somebody ruthless. And so we often talk about, you'll hear me talk about sometimes about how, wealthy people do so much good in the world. And, there's all the Carnegie Institute and the art. And if you ever get to Pittsburgh and a couple places around, not just in Pittsburgh, you'll see the name Carnegie on a lot of really good things that are doing good in the community. But as a financial planner, I also know that a lot of good that the wealthy do is simply so they can tax write off what they're going to do for their heirs. And it's an efficient way. You create a charitable remainder trust or some other kind of charitable trust, and you can pass a lot of your wealth tax-free, estate tax-free, gift tax-free to your future generations if you set them up properly. So I'm not deceived about that today, but I never considered it until a couple years ago. A friend of mine wrote about why she will never teach Think and Grow Rich again. And part of it was because as she dug into the life of this guy, she was like, man, this wasn't a great guy. The guy that hired, Napoleon Hill was something of a charlatan. And, the thing that I find interesting, and y'all can tell me if you know people like this or not. But the thing that I find interesting about guys who are like Napoleon Hill was rumored to be is that a lot of times when I hear of guys who are like Napoleon Hill is rumored to be, they strike me as the kind of guy that can sell you anything. Like you go to the conference and they've got all the answers and they really pump you full of great ideas, and you're going to make this much money if you buy my course, and you can do this much money if you buy my license, and you're going to make all these thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars in your sleep if you speak on my stage. Of course, you got to pay me thousands and thousands of dollars to do it. And I'm not knocking paying that, but I find that there is a type of personality that is so good at selling people into things. You would think those people are super wealthy, but time and time again, I find that they are broke. And that's part of what you'll find when you research Napoleon Hill. And that doesn't mean that all the work was a waste, right? Because he interviewed, all these top people at the time. Andrew Carnegie hired him to interview the top outstanding performers of that age and basically capture in a book what happened. And he did that, and the result is this book. Now, actually, the result isn't this book, because this book is one that I put together that you could get on Amazon. I had a mentor who did this wonderful, wonderful thing. He put the guidelines in, and I said, can you show me how to do that? And he said, sure, I can. Here's how you do that, and here's the copy, and here's what you need to edit. So I'm very thankful to my former mentors who poured into me and showed me how to do this with Napoleon Hill's original manuscript. Y'all, you need to go on out to Amazon and get you a physical copy. Now, if you're an ebook kind of person, then you can actually just register for the course, and their ebook is already in there. But I like to write, I like to highlight, and I used to not, actually. So I can see that my lighting is going in and out as I mess with the book. So that tells me I need to put my lights back. I took them down because I felt like they were too bright. But okay, anyway, this book is absolutely fabulous because it captures the lessons you need to learn. All right. But the reality is, Napoleon Hill is not unlike a million of these people that exist today, that you go to their things, they sell you, they may even give you some good content, and the licenses you purchase, the stage time that you purchase, the products that you purchase, they may be wonderful, wonderful products that do a good job, but somehow these people, they themselves don't follow sound financial principles, and the next time you see them, they are hustling again to make more money. And I always find it very interesting as a financial planner that many people who teach others how to build wealth, they don't do the flip side that I do, which is dumping debt. I want you to have a debt-free life, not just debt-free in terms of money, but debt-free in terms of owing emotionally, owing mentally, owing relationshiply. I got to come up with a better word for that. But I hope what I'm saying rings true for you today. It doesn't mean that the people who did these things don't have something for you to learn. Okay, but if you watch, like my husband, he likes to watch these shows, and the friend that wrote this a couple years ago, she watched the show, the Something That Built America. Well, my husband likes to watch The Food That Built America, The Brands That Built America, he watches all of these, and they're fascinating when I actually do have a chance to watch. But one of the things that you find is a recurring theme over and over and over again is that a lot of the people at the top of their game in any of these areas tend to steal, kill, and destroy to get there. And I'm not going to ignore that today. Okay. And so, if you heard my walking video this morning, and for those of you who are listening to this after the fact as part of the course that I'm going to sell once we finish recording it, if you're listening to this after the fact, I encourage you to go to my Facebook page, and I encourage you to look at my walking video from what's today, October the 12th, because I talk about the role of religion in business decision making. And one of the things I talk about is the GBR report that about 20% of people in America use religion as a values filter set to get their investing. And so 20% of people in America are using values and religion to determine what they will or won't invest in. And the way that the author characterized this was, these people are, get this, these people are losing profit for purity. And when I read that, I thought, man, I kind of resemble that remark, because if I know there's just certain things I'm not going to invest in, I don't feel like God gave me the money he gave me to pour it into an organization that's going to do stuff that his word says not to do. Like, I know I don't have the time and bandwidth to research everybody in a mutual fund, but there are companies out there that do that for you, right? If you can trust them. So, I mean, that's where the fine lines are. But I'm just like, choosing profit versus purity. And I don't think you have to choose profit versus purity, especially if you live in a world where you understand that many will profit at the expense of integrity and many will profit at the expense of purity. And you can guard your heart, guard your mind, and guard your ideas. And so I don't want to throw out the baby with the bathwater, if you will, because there are a lot of people who are in this book. And if you read my preface to the preface to the preface, okay, because we've got the author's preface, but we've got the J.J. Conway preface, which basically says, hey, y'all, this book was not written for people like me. This certainly was not written for Black women back then, because Black women back then, women in general, I don't think could own real estate. And I don't think we had the right to vote without owning real estate back then. I'll have to check my numbers on that. They might have been in the 1920s, but I know that this was not written for me. That's really where I was trying to go. I was trying to work some more history into it, and I realized I didn't do enough research on that. But I've got a detail here of some of the reasons why there's some cautions with this book. I'm excited to bring you this study because it comes from a unique perspective, that of a Holy Ghost filled minister who happens to be an African American woman. Let's just say I'm not the demographic this book was written to. There may be some attitudes expressed either in the pages or in the personal lives of the people we read about during this study that contradict my and your view of the world. I encourage you to read with an open mind so that you might receive the universal truths contained rather than be blocked by human idiosyncrasies. Okay. And you can read that if you get the electronic version, it comes with your course. And if you buy it on Amazon, it's right there on the first page, right before the table of contents. Okay. And so I'm so glad you're on. I wish you would give StreamYard the right to see your profile so that your picture would come up. But thank you, whoever you are, Facebook user. I'm glad for you to be on with us today. So it's important to understand. It's important to understand that excuse me. It's important to understand that just because something had a poor beginning doesn't mean we can't learn from it. You know what I mean? Like, uh there's oh, you have such a great profile picture. I sure wish it would show it. I know sometimes the system is finicky, but there's a lot of there's a little bit of controversy. So one of the controversies about this book is the supposition that maybe Napoleon Hill didn't meet with these guys after all. Okay, so maybe he's just telling their stories. But I don't know. I don't know if he did or didn't. You know what I mean? I don't know if he did or didn't. It may be that he sat down and talked with people close to these guys. Okay. And so then there's some controversy about how much of this did he actually write. There's some controversy that maybe it was one of his wives. Apparently he had a bunch. Maybe it was one of his wives that actually did the writing for him. And then at first my feminine self gets like, whoa, wait a second now. And then I thought about it. I was like, how many wives do the bulk of the work in any relationship? And how many leaders do I know their wife does a whole lot behind the scenes as you never even see? And I don't know about in the business world per se, because I don't, I will get there one day. I don't interact with a whole lot of CEOs unless they're solopreneurs or entrepreneurs, right? But I think about in the church world, I think about how many people are the man doing the being in charge of this or in charge of that, but it's the wife behind the scenes that does all the work. And I was like, well, I don't know about all that. I don't know about all that. All I know is when I applied the principles in this book, they made a difference in my life. And so we're going to actually step through this over the next month and a half. So basically up until about Thanksgiving. And I'm very energized about this today. Now, I don't know if I can share this with you. I am going to try and share this with you because some of you remember back when I used to teach this class every year. And so let me see if I can pull it up. Um, Wait, no, let me do it this way. I had it up and then I guess I did something else. And I think I closed the wrong window. So now I got to get it back up again. Close canceled. I guess I can't. Okay, so I'm not going to be able to do it. Oh, there it goes. And this is kind of hard. This is kind of poignant. Okay, so let me just print and put that print in a new window. Cancel. Let me put that print in a new window so y'all can, so I can share it with you and you can see it. Okay. Um, this is the class that I was teaching. This is the class that I was teaching a week that my dad died. So I taught the class on Thursdays. I've been teaching on Thursdays for a long time. Share screen. And I was teaching this class, not this one we're going to cover today, but I was teaching Think and Grow Rich on the Thursday before the Thursday morning that he passed away. And so let me cut that person's name out of this because somebody responded. Oh, y'all can't see it because it's not big. I'm sorry, y'all. I did all that setup and now I'm not going to be able to make good on it. But basically, I'll still show it to you. Oh, you can see it. Oops, that meant y'all could see it when her name was still on it. Well, if you see this, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to put all your personal business. But basically what happened is during this class, let's see if I take me out, can that be bigger so y'all can actually read it? So during this class, I felt such a strong move to call my dad, right? And so I was teaching on this, and we talk about the steel industry in parts of the class because again, these are the people that he interviewed, the rail tycoons and the steel tycoons. And I was trying to say steel, but I kept saying Steelers, and then it reminded me that all day it'd been on my heart to call my dad. And so it was so heavy on me. I actually paused the class and I tried to text him on the class, but I couldn't get my phone to cooperate. So, and the sad part is people remember that. Like I've asked people, hey, did this really happen? Or is my memory crazy? But people remember being in the class and they remember that happening, but I can't find the recording of that class. Because like I want that recording. This is the one time I wish people wouldn't, didn't listen to me and record it. But basically, so after the class was over, I reached out on all the, like Facebook and all the different platforms over the weekend, and I let him know I loved him. Finally got a hold of him and let him know I loved him. But that next Thursday morning, he was gone, y'all. And it did something to me with this class. And for a while, my energy about this class, I was basically going through the motions about this class and didn't even realize it. And then when my friend wrote her thing maybe 2 years later about, wow, it's been that long already. So it's been almost 4 years. It'll be 4 years in November. But when she wrote that thing 2 years later, I said, oh, well, I'm not going to teach the class anymore. But really at the heart of me not wanting to teach the class and even just going through the motions and trying to sell people in the class and then not really doing it was because in my subconscious mind, this class was a reminder that I will never get that time back with my dad. And so for me to be able to come at this class with some excitement and just passion about the concepts that are in it, despite the controversy surrounding it, for me, it's a huge step forward. And so what I'm going to do, I wish I would have seen this before. I wish I would have seen, oops, I gotta fix that. I wish I would have seen that before when we were talking about the wives, how the wives do so much. What we're going to do is we are going to cover the class. We're going to cover Think and Grow Rich. And in the past, I've sent you all to a Teachable portal, a very expensive Teachable portal. I've had, the class, and we've got the worksheets and everything. And what I have done this year is I have moved to a new platform. And it's a temporary platform. And I know it's a temporary platform because, hey, Justin, if you're watching, I'm still going to sign up on your platform. I'm just trying to get some things straightened out first. And so those of you who have the class on Teachable, don't worry, that's not going away. Teachable has assured me that for life, or for as long as they keep their platform up, anybody who's on Teachable, those classes and already enrollment, you'll get access to them for life. Like that's not going to change. But I'm building this on a new platform this year. And so you can see that platform on here. It's not even the one I'm going to use going forward. It's the one that I use for my technical leader class. And so I just put it on there to put it on there. But if you go out there right now, you are going to get an amazing deal on a class that is normally $199 while I'm teaching it. Y'all remember my pricing structure? $199 while I'm teaching it and $499 when we're done. In fact, I think it's only $7. It was supposed to be 27 or something like that, but I think I saw something come through for 7, which tells me I fat fingered something the wrong way, but I don't have time to fix it because I'm here talking to you. So if you want that, go ahead and get it right now. It'll get you the electronic copy of this book, and it'll also step you through each lesson. We're not going to cover all the lessons publicly. Okay, we are going to cover all the lessons. We are even going to cover, yes, y'all, we are even going to cover the lesson on the mystery of sex transmutation. Okay, I know a lot of people are like, what on earth is that, right? But I'm telling you, this concept of transmutation of energy, whether it's sexual energy or other energy, is one of the most powerful concepts of the book. However, this lady is not going to be talking about that in public on a public forum. All right. So we're going to pre-record that. We're going to pre-record about half of these, and then the other half we'll do on Thursday nights leading up to Thanksgiving. And then after Thanksgiving, we'll wind into our countdown to your best year ever. Okay. So actually it's going to be live, I think 6 weeks, maybe 5 weeks. And then the rest of these chapters, the rest of these lessons, there's 16 in all, including the how to outwit the 6 ghosts of fear. There's 16 of them of all. So that's 10 that are going to be only accessible in the class. 6 of them will be broadcast live like this, but the others will only be in the class. And so that'll be a private Zoom, and then the coursework will be uploaded. And once the course is done being uploaded, y'all know how I do. Once we're done with uploading the course, and I know it's a good course to sell, and all the recordings are okay, and the quality is good enough, then we put it out for public sale, and the price goes up to $199. And then after that's been solidified, it goes up to $499. So don't miss out. Don't miss out, y'all. Okay. Such a powerful book, despite the controversy, despite the issues. All right, let's see what we got here. Oh, thank you so much. You know, the Lord has done this for me with both my grandmother and my father. And I remember when I called my grandmother, I was on the highway in Oklahoma City. So I was pregnant with Philip, and I just felt such a strong urge to call her. And it was so weird because I didn't really know her like that. You know, my mom's family practically disowned her for having a black child out of wedlock. You know, and so I wasn't really close to my family. I found out later, though. I'll tell you what I found out later. I found out later that my grandmother had been praying for me, that my ministry would be successful. And I didn't even know it while she was alive. But that day I felt strongly led to call her, and I was driving down the freeway, and I was scared to death of making a song. Y'all, this is so hilarious because it was 2005, but cell phones had been out, but I hadn't been on cell phones. And I was so scared to call her while driving on the highway, but the Spirit pressed on me so hard. And as a minister, I learned when the Spirit presses on you, you got to move. And so when I felt it that night with my dad, I said, I didn't put the 2 and 2 together, honestly. I just said, oh, this is the Lord. I need to move. And I'm glad I did, y'all, because if he had passed away and I hadn't had that opportunity, you know, there's only 2 times in my life that I have heard my father say that he loved me. And one was, he might have said it during the wedding, but I think his actions said it more than his words. But one time was when I was in 9th grade after my parents got divorced. And I was waiting at his house for my mom to pick me up from National Honor Society. And my dad was running late, which I didn't care because the later he was, the more TV I could sneak. Yes, that's a 9th grader for you, right? But he told me he loved me on the phone when he was telling me he was going to be late and he wasn't going to see me before my mom came to pick me up. And then the other time that he said he loved me was that weekend before he passed away. And I'm never going to forget the fact that my dad and I parted on good terms. And same with my grandma. Now I found out a year later at because I couldn't attend her funeral because I was so pregnant, and I had flown on another trip just previous, and it was so horrible. I just don't travel well with while pregnant, I guess, that we elected not to attend the funeral. But when we went to my grandfather's funeral, I found out that not only was she not Catholic like the rest of my Italian family, my mom's half the family is Italian, and not only was she not Catholic like I thought she was, which a lot of people in my family kind of poo-poo the whole, Pentecostal holiness Christian ministry that I have, but her friends who attended my grandfather's wake, out of respect for her, who had passed away a year previous, they told me that she steady put me in the prayer line or in the prayer request to her Baptist church to pray about my ministry, that it would be successful. And I'm so thankful. I'm so thankful that I listened to the Spirit in those moments. I know y'all came for Think and Grow Rich, but that's going to bless somebody today. I know it's going to bless somebody today. Okay. So I encourage you to participate in our studies on the next couple of Thursday nights. And if you are interested and fascinated with this book, I encourage you to get the complete class, because you're going to get all these extra chapters that we're not going to cover publicly. Okay. And so we're going to start today with the author's preface. Okay. So this is a fun one, because I gave you my study guide preface, right? Let me close out that window. I gave you my study guide preface, and now we're going to do the author's preface. Then there's the introduction. So in the course, if you go now to the course, and the link is there underneath my name, if you go now to the course, you'll find in the introduction that there is a worksheet for, as you are going through the introduction, to actually glean things from the introduction. Now, that's a juicy book when you can glean things from both the preface and the introduction. All right. So that tells you this is a juicy book, and I'm very excited to go through it with you all. Okay. I know some of the topics may be uncomfortable, and I know that some of the history surrounding Napoleon Hill might be a little bit uncomfortable, but it's important that we pay attention to the things that have worked for others. And one of the biggest things that we want to take away from this book and from this preface is the idea that you can put your dreams into motion, that you can bring them to fruition, and it's impossible for your efforts to fail. Now, that doesn't mean that everything you do is going to be the thing that you were meant to do. Y'all heard, if you watch my walking videos, y'all heard me talk about how me and my ex-husband had planned to be missionaries in South America. And we were building a life that once Philip graduated from high school and went off to college, that we would go down to Suriname. We were building investments, and we were making sure our lifestyle was according to what it needed to be, so that our investments and our military retirement would actually be able to fund our lifestyle down in South America without having to cause more taxation of the church, because at that time, our missions department was raising a lot of money to support the foreign missionaries. And we love that, because it shows faith. When you go out there backed by somebody else, that's faith. But we wanted to make sure that we did everything we could to position our life the way we felt like it needed to be. And you might say, well, that was a waste, because you're not with the man anymore, and you don't have a lifestyle that's conducive to being a missionary in a foreign country, because you got a surprise baby in your 40s. So guess what? You ain't going nowhere. You're certainly not going to no bush, not in that family situation. You got a whole nother kid to rear. So I could say that effort was wasted, or that it was a failure. But I want to tell you today, nothing that you do in pursuit of your dream is a failure. You know why it's not a failure? Because when the life gut punched me, and I had this divorce, and I ended up with $800,000 of debt, guess whose lifestyle was able to transition into being able to pay down that debt? Because I wasn't living a highfalutin lifestyle. We were preparing to be missionaries. And preparing to be missionaries, well, you learn how to do some things that you don't learn how to do if you just come home and sit there in front of the TV with a cool beverage. You learn how to get out and talk to people, because even though we were putting our plans in place, you might have to raise some funds. You might have to do this. You might have to do that. I got used to being uncomfortable because I was trying to learn a whole nother culture. And South America, everybody always thinks of Spanish, but South America, Suriname is was a Dutch colony. So you got to know a little Spanish to get along, to get there, but then you got to know Dutch to be there. So, and so, do you see what I'm saying here? Nothing that you've done up to this point is a waste in your life if it has brought you to where you are, so that you can humble yourself and say, okay, I'm going to clear out all these old things. I'm going to let all these old things be past, and I'm going to reach towards my dream. And you say, well, this has happened and that's happened and that's happened. Look, I got enough stuff that has happened to me. Y'all, I got enough stuff that has happened to me. I could have a pity party for years over all the stuff that's happened to me. And I'm not just saying some feel good, psychobabble, mumble jumble. Okay. I'm giving you what I've lived in my life, because I made it my point. I said, every memory that comes back this year, I'm going to spend time grieving it and releasing it. And y'all, it is October and things are still coming up that I forgot had affected me. So I'm not saying your life has to be perfect. And I'm not saying everything that you did up till now is supposed to be blossom and fruitful. But what I'm saying is, if it made you the person that you are today, and the person that you are today is able to grab hold of this concept that you can be, have, and do more, that it wasn't for naught. There's somebody. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm so glad that you're on here. I'm so glad you're on here today. You know, there's somebody who I dated right after the divorce. I purposely called him up because I knew we would go out once or twice and he would dump me. Y'all, I had no idea we would still be going out off and on for a couple months. And then I guess he floated the idea of bringing me home to mama. And his family was like, no, you won't. So he didn't. And we went our separate ways. But he went out and found somebody who was more palatable to mama. She had a better look and feel, and she had more of the things that mama wanted to see in her life. But she was a lot like me. She had a bit of a dysfunctional family situation. She had some drug dealers and criminals in her background. And he called me over one day. He did it under false pretense too. So if he's watching this, which I don't think he does, but if he's watching this, he's about to know I'm talking about him. He called me over. He said they broke up, and I was all excited because we really had a great time together, you know. And he called me over. And he said, well, I'm still dating so and so, and I need your help. And I was like, why did you lie to me? He's like, because you wouldn't have come to my house and been alone with me to have this conversation if I'd have told you, oh, we were still dating. I was like, well, you at least know me, because I wouldn't. I don't put myself in those kinds of positions. I don't put myself in a kind of position to be alone with some guy that does something for me, right? I'm not going to do that if he's attached to somebody else, or if I'm attached to somebody else. I'm just not going to do that. That's not how I roll. And that's how my husband can have confidence in me when I travel all over the world speaking. Okay. But he said something to me. He said, I just need you to help me figure out how to get her away from her dysfunctional and criminal family. And I was like, you're not going to be able to do that. That's her family. Now you could put some boundaries in place where, ain't nobody smoking weed around you. This was back before everything was legal, I was like, but that's her family. You can't tell her not to love her family, even if they make poor decisions. And he said, well, I just don't understand why I can't find a woman who, this is what he said. He said, I don't understand why I can't find a woman who doesn't have all those things in their background that I like. But I found her and I found you, and y'all have the same family background. And I was like, well, strong timber doesn't grow without a storm. There's a better phrase for it, but I can't remember it right now. What is that? If you have peace and calm It doesn't grow the kind of strength and independence that somebody like me has, and that somebody like you has. Somebody who had your background and didn't have, and had somebody else come in and save them all the time, they wouldn't have the strength you have. They wouldn't have the independence you have. They wouldn't have the gumption you have. They wouldn't have the hope that you have. They wouldn't be able to believe that I can pick myself up, dust myself off, and try one more time. And you may not even be feeling that in the moment that you're hearing my voice. But as you go about your day, you're going to realize, wait a second, I've been knocked down and I've gotten up before, and I've been knocked down right now and I can get up again. And so I want you to take away from this premise that it's not about your family situation. It's not about your past mistakes. It's not about what side of the tracks you grew up on. It's not about whether or not you got a college degree or 2 or 3 or a trade certification under your belt. Because some of us got nothing. Some of us got something, but we got it because we were chasing after trying to fill that empty hole in our heart. And when we got the certification, when we got the letters after our name, we were still unfulfilled. But what I want you to know today is that is just part of your story. You have infinite potential. And it's not that we can do just any old thing, but our ideas, we can bring it to pass. Okay? So yeah, an idea might fail, but that doesn't make you a failure. Do you understand what I'm saying today? If you understand what I'm saying today, I want you to drop in the chat, I'm not a failure. I may have failed, but I'm not a failure. And what I'm saying is, it's impossible for you to have this idea in your awareness and not be able to bring it forward. And even if you feel like, well, I don't know how to do this, I'm not equipped to do this, I've never done something like this before, because it came to you, because it came to your awareness, you have already been fully resourced with the skills and talent to be able to bring whatever's in your awareness forward into your life. And it may be that you have the talent already latent beneath you, right? Right inside you. It may be that the person who has the talent, or the person who has the money, or the organization that has the resources, or the people that have the connections will show up at the appointed time. But if it wasn't for you to do, if it wasn't to be in your awareness, it wouldn't even have popped up into your mind. It wouldn't even have shown up. There are people out there who never think to themselves, I can change my current situation. It doesn't even bubble up to their mind. It doesn't bubble up to their awareness. And because it bubbled up to yours, that's how I know you've been fully equipped to do it. And I mean, we're going to do a lot more deeper dives into all these things. You know, we're going to do a deeper dive into all these different things that's going on in our life. Okay. Excuse me. If you, let me see if I can give another example. Okay. So in our life, grab some paper. In our life, our thoughts, everything is energy, okay? Everything is energy, and I'm not just saying this because I used to be a scientist in the Air Force, right? But you know, really at its basic core, everything is energy. It's energy in a particular form, and what we're thinking on, what we're feeling, it gives off a vibration. It gives off a certain frequency, a certain. There's a certain resonance with other people who are also giving off that frequency, okay? So I'm going to draw that frequency. I'm going to draw that frequency here where I'm at, okay? And do I have my other colors? I see my red. Where's my green? Oh, I'm going to do something that my instructor would hate for me to do, because you're never supposed to use a dry erase board on paper. All right, so I'm drawing the frequency of where I'm at. So then when I meet with other people who are here, we seem to group together. We group together. We resonate with each other. We have a great conversation. Oh, girl, we have a good old time. We like the same foods, or we like compatible enough stuff, and we just have a great old time. And great. Okay, but as long as we're still here, we're still here. But here's the thing about frequencies. You might turn your radio to one frequency. I like out here it's 107, 101.7. If I'm with the boys, I'll listen to that because it's got Christian music. It's got a little boppy Christian music, and they like that. They like that a lot. Me, I used to listen to podcasts and trainings, but they like that. But if I decide I don't like that, I can turn the dial and I can get to another frequency. Okay, so let's just say I turn it higher. And now I'm tuning into a higher frequency. Can y'all see that in the green? I'm tuning into the higher frequency. And there's other people up here. And if I tune into that frequency and I begin to absorb that, and I'll start to resonate that frequency. Now y'all gonna laugh. If you do some research on music, you'll find out that the frequency and the vibrations of the music that we listen to has changed over the years, and they're starting to see health issues because of it. I'm not gonna go into all that today because we're talking about Think and Grow Rich, all right? But if I can tap into that higher level frequency, well, then I start to resonate with people who are thinking and acting and doing and being at that higher level frequency. You know, it's almost like I'm driving down the road, I'm listening to my channel, I'm thinking my thoughts, and me and my girlfriends are in the car, and we're reinforcing each other. And then every once in a while, have you ever had this happen on the radio? You're driving along and you'll bleed over into another channel, like especially as at night when the atmosphere kind of lifts a little bit, and you'll hear channels from far away. You start to hear something else. You hear another station. It's the same with our thought life. You know, it might be talk radio, it might be country, something different. And so, you know, for us, we can look at this as desires. What desires are we tuned into? You know, sometimes we can tune into lower level frequencies because whatever feeling we're at, we're feeling low. Whatever feeling we're at, we're feeling low. Okay. And now instead of our normal happy self, we're now down here in this low self. And I mean, you're grieving your dad or you're grieving something else. That makes sense, right? But if you stay down here too long and begin to take on the characteristics of people who resonate at these lower levels of character, you might never, ever have an idea that's up here. It just doesn't come down to you. And even when we're at this level, the great idea comes, boop, I got an idea. And we think, oh, I've got an idea, you know? Well, it came from somewhere, right? You got this little idea and it came from somewhere. You got this idea and you're like, okay, I'm only making 45,000, but I got this idea that I'm going to make $1 million. And you know what happens to the mind that's only programmed for 45,000? It's like, whatevs, as if. Who do you think you are? How are you going to do that? Where are you going to get the time? Where are you going to get the money? And that's exactly what happens because we're not used to operating at a higher level of thinking. We're not used to operating in the millionaire club. And so we get that little flash of brilliance, and immediately our subconscious and works with our conscious to erase it, get rid of it, drown it back out with what it keeps us safe and keeps us in the situation we're in. But you tuned into something that was there. And the beautiful thing is, at that frequency isn't just an idea for $1 million. It's everything that's in harmony with the idea for $1 million is there. Everything that's in harmony. The people, the connections, the resources, all of that. So you know, when I turn into 101.7 Air One, it's not just the music. You also get the commercials, which crack me up because it's supposed to be commercial free. You get the DJ's chatter, which cracks me up because they'll say 50 minutes of unbroken worship. And it's like, yeah, but I got to listen to you, right? You hear everything that's at that frequency. And that's why I'm telling you, if you get a thought that pumps you up to another frequency, pumps you up to a higher level of living, pumps you up to a higher level of thought, then that doesn't mean that you can just, that it won't happen. It's just a pie in the sky. No, something brought that to you. If he brought you to it, he can bring you through it. And so I would encourage you to hold on to that dream. Hold on to that dream, okay? Because in science, we learn that nothing is created or destroyed. Energy is change. It's nothing is created, nothing's destroyed. The ideas that you have, a lot of times, the ideas that you have are already there. And haven't you ever had that happen? You have an idea, you don't act on it, and the next thing you know, somebody else has got it, right? So it's because we're spiritual beings, and I know some of us don't understand that, but we're spiritual beings with physical bodies, but within these physical bodies, we've got a soul and a spirit. And so, that spiritual portion of us is always seeking fuller expression and fuller expansion. That's why a lot of us come to things like this. Where part of us is seeking more life. We're seeking to grow. We're seeking to have, do, and be more. And we're always going to want to be, do, and have more. That's the way life is. That's the way we grow. Now, I'm not saying we don't be content, but God gave us intellectual faculties that allow us to do, be, and have more. And he gave us a command to have dominion over the earth and to subdue it. And I would wager, if I was a wagering person, that many of us aren't subduing anything right now. We're basically in react mode. And so if that's you today, I want you to go to this link. I know it's a kind of a mouthful down there. It's techleader.uteach.io/courses/TAGR for Think and Grow Rich. And I want you to get this course. It will change your life. It will help you understand these concepts. Okay. So when we look at this author's preface, we see how he did the research for the book, how he says he did the research for the book. Okay. So there's some controversy on that. And boy, did I even finish that thought? I don't know if I finished that thought. Let me just finish that thought real quick and make sure I finished it. Because what I was saying is, a lot of people criticize Napoleon Hill because he died broke. And to me, he's just like every other personality that's like Napoleon Hill's personality was meant to be. Something of a charlatan, like a smooth talking snake oil salesman kind of person. And I know a lot of people like that. They may not be snake oil salespeople, but they sure could be one, But one of the things that I've noticed about that personality, and I don't know if it's because I'm not a psychologist, I don't know if it's because I am a student of human behavior, but I'm not formally trained. I don't know if it's because they think they can always make more money, or if it's because they get caught up in the thrill of the sale and the thrill of the lifestyle and don't do solid financial planning to have something for later. Okay. And so I think that's probably, now, of course, I don't know. Like, he lived 100 years ago. I'm not going to know. Right. But I think that's probably why Napoleon Hill died penniless, is because he probably just figured his gift of gab and his smooth talking and his snake oil salesman personality was always going to keep the money rolling in. Okay. So basically, Carnegie commissions him to go out and interview all these people and do research on life. What is it that makes successful people successful? And he says here, Carnegie believed the formula should be taught in all public schools and colleges, and expressed the opinion that if it were properly taught, it would so revolutionize the entire educational system that the time spent in school could be reduced to less than half. Interesting. Okay. And so he's saying, Napoleon Hill saying that Carnegie's experience with Charles Schwab and other people like him convinced Mr. Carnegie that much of what is being taught in schools is of no value whatsoever in connection with the business of earning a living or accumulating riches. He had arrived at this decision because he had taken to his business one young man after another, many of them with but little schooling, and by coaching them in the use of this formula, developed in them rare leadership. So this tells me a couple of things. One, here's somebody who, despite all of his ruthlessness and craziness and things that were unsavory, things that he did wrong, had an interest in growing and developing people. Okay. And I have a feeling that a lot of the good Mr. Carnegie did came at the end of his life, almost in an atonement for the bad that he had done to get there, right? But the more important point that this tells me is that the formula that we're going to cover throughout this book was used to coach with repetition. That means it's repeatable and demonstrable. In science, we call something repeatable if you can take different inputs and apply the same situation and then get the same results. Different young men come into this equation. He applies these lessons and they all result in becoming good leaders and becoming successful. So that makes it repeatable, and demonstrable means other people can see it. And so when you are creating an experiment or you are promising results, have you ever noticed that nobody ever wants to promise you results? Like nobody ever says, you're going to come to my class and I'm going to show you how to be a millionaire in 10 years. I say it because if you do what I'm teaching, you will be a millionaire in 10 years. But most of us, we're not willing to say that because we don't know if you're going to do the work. We don't know if you're going to actually follow the principles of getting out of debt and investing and tithing and being generous. And I don't know if you're going to do those things. Because what I know that most of us do is we say we're going to do those things. And then the first person that comes along and says, well, if you don't believe in yourself, you don't believe in yourself enough to put it on your credit card, and you must not really believe in you. And ain't nobody going to bet on you if you don't bet on you. And then we fall for it every time. But if you do what I teach, it works for everybody who does it. But since I don't know if you're gonna do it, I don't know. I can't make you that guarantee, but I will make the guarantee that if you do the steps, it will. You know how I can say that? I got people who only make their SSDI financially independent after 5 years. All the debt, house, everything paid off. All right. So I know it works. But the thing is, a lot of times we go after what looks like the easy button. The first time I pitched that to one of my mentors, she was like, girl, nobody's waiting 10 years to become a financially independent. She's like, I need you to give it to me in 3 years. I was like, well, that's going to depend on where you start from. I had $800,000 of debt. I wasn't getting out of debt. I wasn't getting out of that debt in 3 years, not while being full-time military. Now, look, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying you can't manifest anything. Look, you can manifest anything. Some things require sacrifice greater than I was willing to give. So, some things require a greater sacrifice. That's all I'm going to say on that. All right. But what I see here in the preface, in the very first encounter, when he talks about why he did what he did, why he wrote the book, what the book is about, is various people from various backgrounds applied the lessons. They were all successful. And you can be successful too. You can be successful without burning the candle at both ends. You can be successful without putting all your time and energy into building somebody else's dream. Don't you think it's time to build your dream? Don't you think it's time to have what you want out of life? Don't you think it's time to stop being afraid of the future? Don't you think it's time to stop being afraid of getting older? To stop being afraid of what happens if I lose everything and go broke? When you get the concepts in this book, you won't ever be afraid of losing everything and going broke again. Now, I hope that doesn't ever happen. Don't get me wrong on that. I hope I never have to go back through those lessons again. But if I was to wake up tomorrow with nothing, I would be confident that it wouldn't take me very long to rebuild because I got the concepts in this book. And that's the kind of peace, that's the kind of contentment, that's the kind of assurance and confidence that I want to see you have. Woo, y'all. All right. The single application of The Secret by that young man, Charles Schwab, made him a huge fortune in both money and opportunity. And that's one of the beauties of this book. As we go through these chapters, you're going to learn how to create opportunity. You know how you're going to learn how to create opportunity, both by learning how to harness the power of your God-given talents and gifts, and also how to tap into the higher residences and resonate with people who are at the higher residences so that you can tap into their resources and eventually become the person at the higher residences. That's why our fourth Fourth Thursday is almost always an empowered entrepreneur. It's not just about making the money. I'm going to teach you how to make the money, but it's also about being the person who has, does, and is more. Y'all. All right. So we find, here's an interesting example here. Arthur Nash, a Cincinnati tailor, used his near bankrupt basis as a guinea pig on which to test the formula. The business came to life and made a fortune for its owners. It is still thriving, although Mr. Nash is gone. The experiment was so unique that newspapers and magazines gave it more than $1 million worth of laudatory publicity. He talks about person after person after person after person who used what's in this book, and he calls it a secret in this book. And the interesting thing about it is, is that, he says the secret to which I refer has been mentioned no fewer than 100 times throughout this book. It has not been directly named, for it seems to work more successfully when it is merely uncovered and left in sight to those who are ready and searching for it. And so I'm going to encourage you. To search. And as we go through this book, I suspect that you, like me, are going to realize, hey, here's an area I haven't been searching in. Here's an area I haven't been executing in. Here's an area where my faith and my light has been dim. And it's going to show you a reflection of the very areas that are hindering your success. And I want to encourage you to stay the course. Continue searching. Don't be afraid. But grab every ounce of this book and use it for your good. Now, if you want to spit out the political commentary, okay. But when it shines a light on the fact that you're not as persistent as you thought you were, just like I found out I wasn't as persistent as I thought I was, don't run away. Don't close it up and say, oh, that's it. Instead, embrace it and make the changes you need to make. It will make a difference in your life. It'll make a difference in your business. It'll make a difference in your ministry. It'll make a difference in your relationships. And ultimately, it'll make a difference in your confidence and your ability to control your life. I'm JJ Conway. I hope that you have enjoyed this preface to Think and Grow Rich. I hope that you will join me for the class. Now, I'm going to, for those of you who are jumping on a little later, I do want to talk to you a little bit about the class. I spent some time talking about this in the beginning, but I want to talk to you about it again. So basically, for the next 6 or so Thursdays, we're going to be covering Think and Grow Rich. But as you can see here, there's 16 different chapters. If you include the preface and introduction, and the epilogue is really 17 if you include all three of those. If you include all three of those, there's 17 chapters, but we've broken it down into 16 lessons that you're going to get in this class. The ones that are on Thursday nights will be taught live like this. So they'll be public. Anybody can see them. But the rest of these, including the chapter on the sixth sense, including the chapter on the mystery of sex transmutation, including the chapter on, did I say sex transmutation? Yeah, I did. Including the chapter on the subconscious mind. Y'all, we're going to talk about some really deep things in the behind the scenes Zoom class. Now, if you can't make the Zoom class, then what we'll do is we'll take the recordings and we'll put it in the course portal once it's done. But I encourage you to get behind the scenes with me so that we can have an open and honest discussion. Normally I do this class, we do it public like this, and I like to have that public discussion. But I know that back in the day when I used to do it as a closed phone call, we got a lot more people who were willing to be open and honest about what they were going through and what the book was revealing to their life. So we're going to go back to the old school way of doing it. We will have some public classes. 6 out of these 16 chapters are going to be broadcast live. But if you want to get every ounce of goodness out of this book, I encourage you to go to that link below there on the bottom of the screen and book into the course. Now, if you're listening to me on the Building Wealth Together podcast, which will soon be rebranded, y'all. So you might be listening to this on Building Wealth Together. You might be listening to this on the JJ Conway Show. But we will be rebranding that. So I don't know where we're going to make the cut line from brand to brand. But in case you're listening to me only audio only, it's techleader.u, the letter U, teach.io/courses/TAGR for Think and Grow Rich. I know I should have set up a vanity URL. I totally forgot, y'all. So that's where we are. And by time, look, by time I set that up, the price gonna go up. So if you know this is something you're interested in, go ahead and get the 24-hour special price blessing that we've got going on right now at that link below. That's all I've got for you today. Y'all take care and be blessed.